Hello, everybody. WeeB'S here, and welcome back to the Otaku Overload Podcast, episode 27. We are back this week. Last week we were not here because I know Legend Jonathan was sick, and he was dealing with some finals at his school or whatever, so he was busy studying. Basically, I know he had a few things going on, so we had to skip last week, but we are back this week, and yeah, we are back. We're excited. We have some things to share. And yeah, how are you doing, my dude? How do you feel this week with all that stuff out of the way?
I'm feeling way better. I'm pretty happy to be here again. And I'm excited to get into this.
All right, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so this week we have a few things to share. We have some news stories that are pretty topical. Kind of funny because some of the news stories, I first stories that like they connect to things we talked about before, which is kind of fun how you start to notice, like, hey, we mentioned that before and it came up again. So that's kind of interesting. And then we have a story to share at the end that, man, I don't know. It makes it kind of sad. It's something I wish there would. You guys will see. I won't spoil it, but
Yeah.
we'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So as always, how about you tell us about your week or your last 2 weeks, I guess. Tell us what you've been up to.
So for like the past week or two, I've been like on a Pokemon binge. Um, so to start off this Pokemon binge, I've been playing a few of the games. Like first off, like the mainline games, I replayed Pokemon Gold. That's like the second generation of Pokemon games. And then I played Pokemon Y, which is the sixth generation of Pokemon games. And then I've been revisiting a spinoff that I haven't played in like a long time. It's called Pokemon Rumble for the Wii. If you guys don't know what that is, that's basically a Pokemon game where instead of regular Pokemon, it's these little wind-up toys, and they're like toy Pokemon. And basically, you do is you get to play as whichever Pokemon you become friends with, supposedly, because that's like the battle mechanic. Instead of catching Pokemon, you play as toy Pokemon, and you have to beat each other up. And whichever Pokemon you knock on the floor, that one becomes your friend or some weird thing like that. So the mechanic is that, I've just been playing that. It's pretty cool. You just go around beating the crap out of other Pokemon, and then you become friends with some of them. And that's just been what I've been up to, playing those games. And I rewatched Detective Pikachu. This is like the second time actually watching it. And years later, it's still one of like one of the best like video game adaptation movies. I think it's pretty good.
Nice. Real quick, jump me back to Pokemon Rumble. Well, first of all, what made you get on the Pokemon binge? Was it just really random? Was there a reason you wanted to revisit them?
I think it's the fact that I was trying to like watch what's it called? Pokemon Horizons, which I'm actually about to about after this one.
Hmm.
It was that I think it was Horizons, the fact that the Horizons anime, we're already at like the eighth episode, and I was trying to catch up with that. Um, watching, I know that the English dub of the final 11 episodes in Canada, I think they're starting to air. And so I saw like the fact that they made like the supposed quote unquote new English opening, which was like really crappy. It was like 30 seconds long, and it was just the original theme. So I was kind of like, you know what? I'm about to get back into the series and all that stuff. Um, and I was like, yeah, let's like replay, some of the older games. Let's, play Pokemon Rumble because I played it off my PC because I was trying out some Wii and GameCube games. And so I was like, you know what? I want to see how this game runs at like 1080p.
Oh,
And
nice, nice, nice. Yeah.
and it runs pretty great on there actually. Like it looks super good.
Nice. That's cool. What I was gonna say about Pokemon Rumble, because I remember I played that quite a bit back in the day on my Wii as well. Something
Yeah.
that I really like that you mentioned is that it's very different because it's a spin-off. So it doesn't play like the normal games. It's on RPG.
That's
Um,
a
yeah, I really like that the way it works, it's pretty cool. Like let's say you catch a Pikachu, right?
mhm.
If I remember correctly, isn't there like two buttons for the different attacks Pikachu could do or whatever?
For each Pokemon, there's only two buttons you can use. you could use one or two. That's like the buttons on the Wii control, and they have two different moves, and that's like you just automatically do them when you press the buttons.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's what I think is really cool that instead of being an RPG, it's like more like action, like
It's like a beat 'em up, basically.
yeah, and I was gonna say it sucks that they've never returned to that because I would really like to play like think about Legends Arceus style,
hmm
but imagine it where you instead of having to like choose from a list of moves, if like the four face buttons as soon
Were
as
the
you enter a
moves.
yeah, when you enter a battle, the four face buttons were like the moves. That'd be really cool.
hmm Especially because like the last Pokemon Rumble game I heard, which was like I think it was the phone one actually, because back in 2019 they made a phone one.
Oh, did
I,
they? Hmm.
yeah, I remember people were like really like saying like it was crappy, and it was because I remember I think it had like in-game purchases stuff like with actual money, and I think too it was just like people just saw the announcement in the Pokemon Direct, and everyone was like, yeah, no, this does not look fun whatsoever.
Yeah, I can
Like people.
imagine because you can't play it the way you want. It's like, oh, if you want to go to the next level, you have to like wait a certain amount of time or pay a bunch of money. Well, not a bunch, but, pay some money to like be able to go ahead or whatever. Like, that stuff just kills games sometimes.
hmm Especially because like I heard that the sequels to Pokemon Rumble, they weren't that great, but neither were they that bad. Like it was mixed.
Gotcha.
The only one I think that people liked was the one that was on the eShop. That I think that one did have in-game purchases, but that one was like with actual in-game currency or something like that. But like literally like outside of that one, I know the second game didn't do so well, and I know the fourth game for the Wii U didn't do so well or something like that.
I didn't
Especially
even,
the
I didn't even know
especially
I didn't even know there was that many of them. I thought there was only like maybe like one or two.
no, yeah, no, there's like five of them.
Dang. All
Because
right.
yeah, the first one did good. Second one did mixed. I think people just didn't like it because it was like they reused a lot of stuff from the first game, and that was on the 3DS. Then there's the one for the 3DS again, the third one. People like that one. Then there was the Wii U one, which used weird cards, like the NFC cards. And people
Mm.
hated that because you had to buy them separately instead of coming with the game. And people just thought it was kind of dumb that that's how you got your Pokemon through the cards or whatever. And then after that, when the phone one came out, everyone just gave up on the series. Everyone's like, yeah, no, this series went to hell.
That sucks. Yeah, I remember really
Yeah.
liking the Wii one. Like I said, I really like the like action
hmm
style of like. I wish Pokemon would evolve to be something like that, where it's like a big open world, kind of like Legends Arceus, where you're running around. Battles are more dynamic. You just press the face buttons for attacks and dodges and stuff. That'd be really cool.
Same. I think that it would be pretty cool if they did that for like another spinoff or something. Or they come back with like Pokemon Rumble, which I don't think they probably will, and like make a new one that has like the mechanics from like the first one and like I don't know, just upscale the graphics, obviously, make a new plot or reintroduce the plot from the
But
first one.
I don't think Nintendo. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think so
Pokemon
either.
Company or whatever will do that, and we're gonna talk about that a little later as well. It ties into
Yeah.
something later, yeah.
I
And then
don't
as for Detective Pikachu, you said that you think it really stands up. Yeah, I've watched it like a couple of times since it came out, and I remember really liking it too. I think it really stands out, and it's one of those things where, again, tying to something I think at one point we talked about. Like, there's rumors that supposedly the main guy Justice Smith said
Oh
there's not going to be a
yeah.
movie, but then there's rumors that there might be still, and they're working on it. Blah blah blah. And I think we said like, it kind of sucks though because they changed some of the writers and directors or whatever, so we're not really too sure. Um, but yeah, I really wish they would make another like Detective Pikachu live action movie because I mean, for being like the first live action Pokemon movie, they did a really good job.
They really did. They made all the Pokemons look cute or look like what you would expect them to look like. Um like in like the real world. I thought it was cool how they adapted the story of like Detective Pikachu pretty well. And they didn't really copy and paste everything either. They kept some stuff which was pretty cool, but you can tell they changed a lot. I thought it was pretty cool how like there's the part with Mewtwo and Pikachu, and I like how the point is that since Mewtwo has been around for like 20 years, supposedly by that point, because of the whole red and green situation from like the games, I like how even like the dude he says to Pikachu, he's like, "Oh, you know that a Pikachu can't defeat a Mewtwo in battle." And I was like, "Oh, that's so true," because usually you can't exactly like even if you have a high level like Pikachu, Mewtwo's like really how do you call it? It has a huge advantage over like Pikachu in general and stuff. So I thought
Hmm.
it was pretty cool that they keep like the whole statistic stuff of like the Pokemon pretty accurate. And I'm like, yeah, because that's like really true. The only move I can see it working on, which Pikachu does use, is like Volt Tackle, and that's pretty much it. Like every other attack would be really weak against a Mewtwo.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I just thought it was like a really fun movie. It's true. I just wish they would make more or like expand on that world, but we're gonna have to wait and see. And even
Hmm.
if they do, now that like it's there's rumored like, oh, none of the people are coming back or whatever, it's kind of like
Yeah.
but yeah, pretty cool. It's pretty cool you've been on a Pokemon binge. That's fun. A lot of stuff that, yeah, I love Pokemon Gold. I think that is really cool with like the whole two region thing and some of the stuff
Yeah.
introduced. Pokemon Y I thought was all right. It's not one of my it's not like one of my favorites, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
still
definitely not. Yeah.
but it's still pretty cool. And then I give my thoughts on Pokemon Rumble, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I know you said we kind of went a little bit of detour. You say we were to mention Pokemon Horizons. I also watched it. Um, do you remember what's the last thing we mentioned when we talked about on podcast? Was it when like Roy joined, maybe?
Yeah, it was when Roy joined.
All right. So you are caught up to episode 8 then, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So episode 8, which is like the latest one. Honestly, not too much has happened. I feel like the really big thing was that Roy joined. After that,
Hmm.
they've been kind of smaller episodes where it's like, oh, Roy and
Liko.
yeah, had like their first battle. And then another one's like, oh, they discovered that like there's another member of the crew that never comes out of her room, and she's the one who owns the Quaxley.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like, oh, it's this girl that she's like mysterious and that in episode 8, because in episode 7 they kind of implied some stuff about her. And episode
Hmm.
8 they reveal that yes, that girl that wears like the costume and she's like a VTuber or whatever, basically, and she like talks about all like the Pokemon tips and stuff. Basically they confirm that yeah, it's her. So that
Yeah,
was
I
really
remember.
interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's been like smaller stuff though, but it's kind of interesting because it seems like it is setting up that there is going to be a third um trainer. Because how usually every gen, it would be like Ash and then Misty and Brock, and then Ash with May and Brock, or there's always like three. It's not
Hmm.
like even when it was like Ash and Go for the longest time, but Chloe was technically like the third, you know,
Yeah.
third trainer. So it looks like they're setting up that it's not going to be just Liko and Roy, that there might be this third trainer kind of.
Yeah.
What was her name? Do you remember her name is? Oh,
Dot.
Dot, yeah, Dot. Her design doesn't look like anyone from like the games or anything either. So it looks like it's like a unique design, huh?
Yeah.
Because I was like, is it going to be like based on maybe like someone from like the Scarlet and Violet or anything? But it looks like nah. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I continue to enjoy it. It's just very, still very lighthearted. It's very whatever. I'm still kind of waiting to see, like I said, where is this leading to? Because I feel like it's all of this still feels like it's still leading to like, okay, they joined the crew, they had their first battle, they're still on their way to Paldea. What happens once they reach Paldea, right?
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed it. I think it's fine. It's like a slow burn, but it's like, Pokemon, if you think about it, that's just the way it is. It's very episodic or whatever. It's very
Hmm.
like, oh, each episode's like its own adventure, its own thing, basically. So it's whatever. I think it's fine. What are your thoughts on it? Have you enjoyed it so far? What do you think?
Yeah, I've been liking it pretty much pretty much so far. I've enjoyed it. I thought episode 8, especially 7, I thought episode 7 and 8 were pretty good. 7, I thought it was kind of funny how they didn't know how to fight, you know?
Oh,
And
they were like
then,
total noobs. It was really funny.
dude, I'm telling you, it looked like, you know how in the games they'll do like the move and then they don't move or anything? Like these kids really pulled a video game move where they're like leafage, ember, and then the Pokemon just sits there and does the move and
Yeah,
nothing
it
happens.
legit seemed like they were pulling a turn-based thing. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was like some like video game thing where it's like, oh yeah, do the one move, does the
Yeah,
one move.
they're just making their Pokemon spam the move, and it even says later that they were like so busy making their Pokemon spam the move that their Pokemon's had like their eyes closed and stuff. It was really funny.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not until like they really like they battle
They
against
really train.
Captain Pikachu, and he kind of trains them to like move around and like pay attention to their surroundings and stuff.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like the fact that they really were like, no man, like just Ember or Leafage. I'm like, you're not gonna tell your Pokemon to like run at the Pokemon and like do the move or
No,
like do the move or like, hey, dodge it and then do this or like, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of funny.
it was pretty funny, and I love when they battle Captain Pikachu. I love that Captain Pikachu is such a badass
He doesn't need
that
his trainer to tell him
yeah,
anything.
Frayed is literally just standing to the side, and Captain Pikachu is just doing his own thing. I was like,
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, Captain
yeah.
Pikachu is so badass. He doesn't even need what do you call it?
He doesn't
He
need
does
orders.
yeah, he doesn't even need orders. He just like battles on his own. I mean, that's freaking
Yeah,
cool.
that's pretty cool.
Oh my God. Was that it for your week then? Just a bunch of Pokemon binging and stuff.
Pretty much honestly, because like I've been catching up with like other stuff, but honestly, that's like the most I've actually been doing though. Like the most, yeah.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Then going over to my week, Pokemon Horizons, the series that overlaps with my week because I have been, watching it and catching up as well. Then another thing I did that I won't talk about too much because obviously we are playing it on the channel. Hopefully people have noticed by now. Is that I have been playing uh, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've been doing that, and I will admit I had kind of hoped to like just play it for like the channel and like keep it like I don't know how to explain it. Like I haven't been playing it on my own. I guess what I'm saying. Luckily, I haven't been playing on my own, but I've been doing like different stuff. Like I'm like kind of behind, if that makes sense. So at least
Mm,
hopefully I won't like spoil myself on anything if I'm lucky. I'll have to like be very careful.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be careful so I don't like spoil myself. I'm trying to do like more, side quests and more exploration and that sort of thing, because I would hate for it to be like, let's say like, oh, you and I for the LP, let's say that we beat like the first boss, and then like on my own, I'm already up to like the third boss. That would suck because like then I would like be like spoiled or whatever. So I'm trying to be really
Uh,
careful, but I will admit that I have been playing it on my own though. Like I said,
that's
I've been trying
that's
to do
pretty
like,
cool.
yeah, I've been trying to do more of like side quests or exploration, maybe stuff that we haven't done in the LP, maybe to kind of like that way later in the LP I can be like, oh, on my own as I was exploring, I discovered there's this one thing. Let's go look at that because we missed it or something. You know what I mean? I've been trying to like play a little bit differently so I don't spoil myself, but it's like really hard because like I have to be like so careful of like, okay, I think I'm getting to a point where like I'm running out of things to do, or like I'm afraid I'm gonna like spoil myself by going to this area. I need to like step back for right now, sort of thing. So it's been a bit difficult, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've been having fun with it. Like I've been having fun with the LP, and I've been having fun with playing it on my own. Oh man, the game is just really big, so much to do, very fun.
Let me guess, you'd be building a bunch of crazy stuff too, huh?
I've been trying. It's really hard because in the beginning you don't really have a lot of battery. And
Mm,
so you need like a lot of battery for like, because like, yeah, you can build something really cool, but like if it shuts down and you after like 10 seconds of using it, it's really lame, you know what I mean? So you need to
yeah,
really work on like battery and stuff to like make it worthwhile.
yeah. Because that's what I've been doing. I've been making stuff, and then another thing is I just try to do side quests mostly, to be honest.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of like, oh, here's like the village. Let me do like all of the stuff in this village and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. And then moving on to stuff that I watched. I brought it up last time that I started watching Unicorn Warriors Eternal. That was the show by I think his name is Gendy Tartakovsky, which is the guy that made stuff like, Samurai Jack and all those shows, Dexter's Laboratory, et cetera, et cetera. Brought up that I had watched the first two episodes, thought it was pretty cool. Pretty cool how it's based. The art style really reminds me of like Fleischer cartoons or like Tezuka, the guy who made like
Like
uh,
Astro Boy.
Astro Boy and stuff. Yeah, it really reminds me of that. It really feels like that old school style. It feels like if it really was, like, I don't know if it is hand drawn, but it feels like it feels hand drawn, like the way like the art style is, and it feels like very retro. And yeah, basically it's the show about how there's these three souls that basically whenever they're needed, they are reincarnated into like new bodies. And so the interesting thing is that the guy who's like the elf, he
Yeah.
seems to have basically reincarnated to his new body with no trouble. He seems to have all his old memories, all his powers, etc. But when it comes to the other two, that's where there was some issues where the cosmic monk Seng, he reincarnated into this body of like this like boy, but because he like reincarnated into a kid, the kid isn't that great at like controlling his powers. And he
Yeah.
has trouble like connecting with like the cosmic realm and stuff. So there's kind of like some trouble there. And then there's really big trouble when it comes to Melinda, the dark sorceress, because when she reincarnated into her new body, it was the body of this girl that was getting like married. It was like her wedding day. And for
Yeah.
some reason, it's like the body, um, it's basically inhabited by like two souls, the soul of the sorceress and the soul of the actual like girl who was living in that body. And usually like when the other like soul, the original the warrior soul takes over, the other soul kind of like goes away or like gives in or whatever and kind of lets the other soul like do its thing. But something happened here where no, it's like basically two souls fighting in one body. And in one of the episodes, one of the last ones that I watched was like episode like 4 or 5. She actually went to like a seance thing. It was a guy that
Yeah.
was trying to like be like a like rip her off. Like he wasn't an actual medium. He was trying to rip her off, but somehow it actually ended up working. And she actually like confronted like her. It was a confrontation between the two souls, and it was really interesting. So
Now,
yeah, it's just been really interesting. The whole thing about like this time like the reincarnations didn't go 100%, and so it's really crazy trying to see like what's gonna happen. Like I said, it really is interesting this idea of like what happens when like the soul doesn't fully take over, and so the other person's kind of fighting back and being like, no, I don't want this life. Like find another host or vessel or whatever. It's pretty crazy.
E.
Yeah, then they've been just they've expanded more on like the world building on the lore. We found out some more stuff about Merlin, who's the guy who like kind of gave them the not gave them the powers, but kind of like gave them their like tasks and gave them like that robot. We learned more about him. We learned more about Melinda's mother. We learned more about the antagonist, who's like this like fox kitsune spirit.
Damn.
Her the guy who she was supposed to marry, the Melinda, the body she's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
she's hosting or whatever. The name of the girl is Emma. We've seen like more of her fiance. He's dealing with some stuff, so pretty interesting. So yeah, I continue to enjoy the show. It looks like it really, like I don't know, like the art style is really good. It's been a really interesting story and stuff, a lot of world building. So I'm enjoying it. I can
Nice.
continue to recommend it. So pretty cool.
Nice.
Then the other thing that I watched is something I had been excited for a while, ever since it got announced, and it was the second season slash revival of Clone High. And Clone High is pretty cool. Clone High is this animated series. It's by the guys who Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. They're behind stuff like the Lego Movie, Spider-Verse, all sorts of stuff. What else are there? Hold on, because I know they're behind some like live action stuff too. Let me look real quick. 21 and 22 Jump Street, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, all sorts of stuff like that. And yeah, there's some really good writers, and they're like really creative with like the stuff that they write and direct. And one of the first things that they made was this show called Clone High, and basically it is this show that makes fun of teen dramas. That's why every episode they like, oh, it's like a very special episode. It's going to deal with like supposedly like some sort of like a lesson. Like they're making fun of that, and basically it's making fun of teen dramas, and it's about how there's this high school where this scientist guy, he's part of like this elite group of like government agents or whatever, that they made clones of a bunch of historical figures, and it's all about these historical figures, like the teen versions of them going to high school and dealing with all sorts of like teen issues, and how like they're not at all like their original versions. Like Abe Lincoln, instead of being like really brave, he's kind of like a coward. Joan of Arc, instead of being like this, pious warrior, she's kind of like a goth chick. Gandhi's like a party animal. JFK is like really dumb and he's like total jock or whatever. Cleopatra, she's like this like, student council president, but she's also like super like hot and like a cheerleader and stuff. And it's all about them, and their relationships and stuff. And it has all sorts of like really like weird like humor from the time. And I don't know, it's just really funny. Like if you know their comedy from stuff like the Lego Movie and like stuff like I said, it's like their comedy, but it's pretty fun stuff. And it sucks is after one season, which is like 10 episodes, 12 episodes, something like that, it got canceled, the show, because it used to be on MTV, and it finally came back, and it's on HBO, not HBO Max, Max, and it's like a revival where it's like, oh, at the end of the first series, everybody got like frozen on prom night. And since basically it starts off for like 20 years that have passed like in real life, it passed for them as well, just frozen. And so like they it's about how they're like they got unfrozen, and it's about how like the old school cast, they're dealing with like the new world, current year, and how they're dealing with like a new batch of clones that grew up while they were frozen. So like this time around they have Frida Kahlo, they have Harriet Tubman, they have Confucius, they have Christopher Columbus, and it's all about like new cast and new issues and stuff, and like, oh, like the people that were like popular before, like Cleopatra, now like the popular kids are more like alt kids, or more like like Frida Kahlo is like the one who's like super popular or whatever, and like she's like, what, but she's like not all fashionable like me, like how's that possible? And then like Confucius is just like an internet dude or whatever with like dyed hair. And then Christopher Columbus, because of the whole cancel culture, he's embarrassed to say that he's based on Christopher Columbus, so he calls himself Topher Bus.
Bruh.
Because like Christopher Columbus, people like hate him now because of like,
oh yeah, because all the stuff that they talked about,
because all the stuff that like he did, like he really did do, but like in recent years, people have like, instead of seeing him as a hero, they've seen him more as like, nah, he was like a dick, like he freaking like killed a bunch of people, and he killed a bunch of people, and he didn't even like he didn't even discover what he set out to discover and stuff. He's an idiot and stuff,
He tried to find gold or something like that, and then he ended up here,
Yeah, and he kept thinking it was like the Indies when it wasn't. Like, they say like he's kind of like a dumb screw up or whatever. So, anyways, the point is that and the first episode was kind of rough. I think it was kind of like weird trying to see them back. It wasn't like that great. It was kind of like clunky. But then like the second episode, I thought was pretty good. Honestly, it felt like it was I felt like it was more back to like the original series a bit, and I thought it was fun. And I thought the characters felt more like organic, and it was fun seeing them interact and stuff. So I'm excited. Like so far, first episode wasn't great, but then the second episode I thought was pretty good. So I'm excited to see where it leads. And it sucks that Gandhi didn't come back. Because, there was like a whole thing where it was really controversial because Gandhi was like a real character that in India he's like really revered, and the way they treat him like this like party dude kind of perv or whatever. It was there was all sorts of issues, so they decided not to bring him back. But it's hinted that, hey, maybe we'll bring him back in the future. We'll see. Maybe we'll just make up a thing where like, oh no, he isn't even like the clone of Gandhi. He was actually the clone of like some other character,
some other famous,
yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But you kind of miss him. There's I feel like a hole, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's pretty fun so far. Like I said, I'm glad they were able to get their show back. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, because they make some really good stuff. Like they're really cool creators. So I'm enjoying the revival so far, and it just started, so we'll see how it goes. But I've had fun with it.
My favorite jokes from the original one, real quick, was the one where I think Gandhi got in jail, and then he's like, Jonah, I need to get a high five. I haven't had one in like a while. Look, everyone else is getting one. And like he like starts doing the high five motion as you hear the noises, And then the other one's when JFK's in the car. He's like,
Oh, okay.
nothing
No, no,
ever.
no. Hold on, real quick. What you're trying to say? No, yeah, yeah. Because people might be missing what the joke is. Yeah. So he says, um, I need you to give me a high five, and he says for her to give it to him under the table.
Yeah.
Because he's going through withdrawals because he always likes to he's like a party dude, he needs attention, he wants a high five, and so he says like give me the high five on the table, and he's like please, it's been like days since I've had one or whatever,
And
and
then
he's
look
like
at
look,
everyone
everyone
else.
else is getting one, and that's when you look under the table, you see like movement, and it's that not people aren't getting a high five, it's something
It's a
else. It's
yeah.
yeah, it's a hand job, but he did this high five, it's stupid.
Yeah. And then yeah, that one's pretty good. And then I like how the one with JFK where he's in the car and he's like, nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys. And then the thing drops on top of them.
Yeah, his car like flips over on top of him. It's so funny, man. Yes.
Dude,
Oh, JFK, a lot of his freaking lines are really good. Like I love the one where he just goes to like some dude, he's like, I like your silly words, magic man or something like
oh yeah,
that.
that and it became a meme. He's like, ha ha ha, I like your silly words, Magic Man.
Something like that. Oh my God. There's all sorts
Yeah,
of like the humor is just so like random, but it's like really funny. Like out of
yeah,
context too, it's like really funny. JFK is like such a like he was supposed to be a character everyone hated, but he ended up becoming like everyone's favorite character.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's really funny. Yeah. All right, but that's it for my week. So oh my
Nothing bad
God.
ever happens.
So the Kennedys, his car just flips over on top of him. And what's really funny too is that they're in the middle of a race, right? Just real
Yeah,
quick, they're in the middle of a race, and Abe Lincoln, he's really tired, so he actually pulls over to get a nap. The
yeah.
next morning, when he wakes up refreshed and he crosses the finish line, JFK's car still flipped over. Oh my God, that was really funny. His car was still flipped over, and that was like hours later. It was funny. Oh my God. Alrighty, getting into the news. We had three news stories. One of them's pretty big, um, because, and that's the one I'm going to start with. And it's pretty big because earlier this week, for anyone who doesn't know, Sony actually had a showcase. They had their showcase 2023. So for the first news story, as the article says, PlayStation Showcase 2023, everything announced. And I'm not going to go over everything because some of the stuff I don't even know what it is. Some of them, as always, you can look it up yourself. Link will be in the description below. I'm going to go over like the biggest ones, and plus like something they announced that like, I just feel like kind of like talking trash about it because it's like really dumb. Like the biggest
Yeah.
games that got announced, I want to mention really quick. One of them was Spider-Man 2. That's what they closed with. And it was pretty cool. We got like a really big trailer that shows Kraven the Hunter. It shows Peter in the symbiote suit, which is really, he had like all sorts of crazy moves. And it shows that you will be able to switch back and forth between Peter and Miles, which is really awesome to show the gameplay for both. I don't know if you can switch between them as you want or if it's like at certain moments, but regardless, the fact that you can play as both of them is pretty cool. And the fact that they each have like their own move set was like really, it looked really fun.
Yeah.
Like for Miles, if you played like the Miles Morales game, he has a lot of flashy like tech and moves and all sorts of stuff. And then for Peter, because he has the symbiote suit, he has all sorts of crazy like moves with like the tentacles and I don't know. It's just like really like aggressive moves and stuff. It's
That
really
like
interesting.
Venom would have if he wasn't a part of Peter, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And then what's interesting too is okay, we know Craven is gonna be like, well, I don't know if the main antagonist, but he's gonna be an antagonist, which is pretty cool. It shows that they're hunting Connors, who is in his form as the lizard. What I'm wondering is that when it starts, Peter, he has the symbiote suit. I'm wondering how he gets it because at the end of the first
Hmm.
one, we know that it's his friend. What's his name? Oh, I'm blanking on his name. His friend's name is. Oh my God, why am I blanking on his
Harry.
name? Yes, Harry Osborn. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, his friend Harry, who has been missing. They thought he was in Europe. He's apparently like in a like in some sort of a tank, and we see that like the venom. He's the symbiote. It's being used to keep him alive. Apparently.
Damn.
So what happens that it's no longer with Harry? Why is it with Peter? And why is it part of like him as a suit or whatever? So it'll be really interesting to see, why does Peter have it? What's the implication of him having it? Will Harry be Venom at some point? Or who's going to get infected to be Venom then? How will Craven play a part in all this? Like, I don't know. It just looks really interesting. Like there's still a lot of questions, but the fact that we know that the symbiote suit's involved, Craven's involved, the fact that we get to play as two different Spider-Man and stuff, it looks really interesting. And the gameplay they showed, it looked really, really cool. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I like the gameplay.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. I do think it went a little long because it was like 12 minutes of
Oh, that is
gameplay.
true though. It was really long, the
It
trailer
felt a
though.
little long, but at the same time, it was cool. So whatever.
Yeah.
Then another really big story is that they showed that Alan Wake 2 is going to come out finally. Which Alan Wake 2, yeah, man. Oh man, Alan Wake was this game that just came out. People really liked it, but then it seemed like it was never going to go anywhere. But then they had Control, and they showed that it was connected to Alan Wake, and then they did like the remaster of Alan Wake or whatever, the first one, and now they're making a second game. So it's kind of cool to see that series finally progress. And yeah, it showed that it's going to be to another playable character. It's going to be Alan Wake and a new playable character who's joining him as on investigation. And they announced that the game will come out October 17th. So pretty
Nice.
cool, right in time for like the Spooktober season in October and stuff. So that's pretty cool, October. Then the other really, really big one, I kind of was saving it for last, is that they finally, had been rumored for a while, announced that they're going to make a remake of Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, which
Oh yeah,
that was really cool.
hmm
Like the graphics look really good. Obviously, it's a really beloved game, so that's really cool. And from what they've said, they've promised that supposedly the reason it's even called like Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is because supposedly they're promising that it's gonna be like very faithful to the original. Like, yes, it's gonna have
That's pretty
like
good. That's
yeah,
pretty
like they
good.
said supposedly that like because Delta means like something about like the foundation, blah blah blah. You can read into why they call it Delta supposedly, but supposedly it has to do with like, yeah, like they're using the foundation and they're just gonna like really like up the graphics and some mechanics and stuff. But supposedly it's gonna try to be very faithful, which I hope it's true, because it kind of sucks when sometimes the game they really change it or whatever, and like I don't know, like Kojima, even though he's not involved, like he really put these games together with like so much blood, sweat, and tears, and so much thought. It would really suck if they like change stuff, like I don't know. So it's really cool. It's supposedly, yes, they're gonna be trying to be very, very faithful. So that's cool. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. That sounds really awesome. People have been asking for a remake of that game for a while because it was a PS2 game. Obviously, at this point, some of the PS2 games, they could use a facelift. That's not a bad idea. So we're gonna get the remake, which sounds awesome. I don't believe we have a um release date yet, but we were also told that there's gonna be a Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, which Volume 1 is gonna have the first, second, and third game, like the originals, and it's sometime this fall. And then, obviously if there's a Volume 1, hopefully that means there's gonna be a Volume 2. And it would be really cool if they finally re-released the fourth game, because the fourth game has been stuck on the PS3 forever. So
Oh
we'll
yeah,
see how that
yeah, yeah.
goes. Yeah. So very, very cool. So those were basically the really big three announcements. But of course, they also talked about like the next Assassin's Creed. They talked about Final Fantasy 16. They talked about a new game by Bungie. They talked more about Street Fighter 6, etc. Blah blah blah. So it was an all right direct. Showcase. It was like it was all right. Even though a lot of like the big hitters were the three I mentioned at the beginning, there was some other stuff that might be interesting. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about though, because oh my god, this is where it's just like becomes like really silly. Do you remember when the Wii first, Nintendo first made the Wii and everyone was criticizing the motion controls, but then Sony came out with the PlayStation Move and Microsoft came out with the Kinect?
Yes, sir.
So it was like, really, you guys are talking crap, but then you guys are like basically copying.
Yeah.
So in this showcase, Sony copied not one, but two ideas from Nintendo. The first, and they're not even like, it is like so blatant, is that they announced a game from Square Enix called Foam Stars that is the exact same thing as Splatoon, but instead of paint, it is foam.
Yeah.
And it even says here, Square Enix revealed a first look at Foam Stars, which appears to be a Splatoon-like team shooter. The gameplay looked like characters were competing to cover the ground with as
Bruh.
much foam as possible. And everyone was just saying that it looks like Splatoon. It looks like Splatoon. It's such a ripoff. It's like they
It's
didn't even
Splatoon
hide
but with
it.
people. Like it's
Yeah,
Splatoon with people. That's it.
yeah, like really anime-looking people, and they're using foam. It's like they didn't even like try. Like it feels like such a ripoff, dude. Like wow, like it still remains to be seen. Maybe there'll be some stuff that's different. Like I will admit, I think from what I saw, the maps looked kind of interesting. You know, they
Yeah,
looked
yeah, yeah.
different, but I think it looks a lot like Splatoon. It feels like they're really, really like. It feels like that meme where it's like, oh, you know, copy my homework but change it, and then like they don't change it at all, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It feels like that meme, dude. And the other thing where they basically ripped it off, and this one's even more ridiculous because Foam Star is okay. I can see that. Okay, there's people want to play Splatoon, but they don't want to buy like
Nintendo console.
a Nintendo console. So sure, you know, there's whatever, you know. They announced a streaming device that they are calling Project Q. That it is literally at first when I first saw it, I thought it was like a new controller for like a screen for like your phone or whatever. But
I thought it
no,
was a portable actually.
and I thought, yeah, or like a portable, but it is a portable. But guess what? It is it has to be over Wi-Fi. You have to have a PlayStation 5. So all it basically does,
Is this a Wii U gamepad?
yes, it's basically a Wii U gamepad where it is not something you can take on the go.
Oh my
It's not
god.
something you can play instead of having a PS5. All it does is that if you have your PS5, yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna stream it to my screen so I can like play it in bed
Eh,
basically.
Oh my god, dude.
And it costs like a bunch of money probably because I doubt it's gonna be cheap. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be really expensive.
The,
And then it looks so dumb. It looks like they literally cut
the middle of the PS5 controller.
in half and then
Yeah.
stuck both ends on like a tablet screen. That's it.
Oh my god. I'm
Like at
trying.
least the Wii U gamepad was like more like you know
It looks
like
bulky.
yeah, and like at least you could like use it as like a TV remote and stuff, and like I don't know, man. At least you didn't even have to use the Wi-Fi either, because this takes Wi-Fi because it uses remote play over Wi-Fi, and you have to have the PS5, and so all it does is like, oh, instead of playing in front of like my TV screen, I'm gonna go play this like on the can, or I'm gonna go play this like in bed. It's
It's
like
so dumb.
I thought first, I honestly thought they were making a new portable, which if they, at least if it was a portable, that would have been cool. Because like, oh, it's been a while since they made a portable, you know, since the Vita or whatever. A new portable would have been kind of cool, but no, it's literally just to stream your game to like a portable thing that like that's it, and it needs Wi-Fi, and like it's just so dumb. So number one, it feels like they're copying the Wii U, which is like really, guys, really. And number two, it just seems so dumb that you would pay so much money for like dude, really?
Yeah, it's so like I don't know, man.
So it's one of those things where it's like, man, Sony, I don't know what's your deal lately. I feel like this gen, you're just not doing very good.
Yeah, I don't know,
The
man.
PS5 gen has not been very good. What with them not wanting to do backwards compatibility, them creating some dumb handheld that's really stupid. I don't know. They're just like they're not doing very good. Like they're lucky that they finally announced some games that sound pretty cool, but like it's just been a very, very slow generation for them. Like the fact
Yeah,
that the PlayStation 5 has been out this long and there's only like a handful of like exclusives, like they're barely starting to add to it. It's like, I don't know, man. Sony, I don't know what you guys have been doing.
yeah.
So I don't know. And then the showcase, it was fine, but a lot of people were saying, like, dude, if this was old Sony, like they would have like so much stuff, like, you know, think about all like the games that Naughty Dog used to make. think of the stuff like when they used to make like the Sly Cooper games, and
Hmm.
I don't know, man. It's just like Sony used to have such a huge library of stuff, and now I don't know. It feels like they're barely fighting for like I don't know. It's kind of
You know,
sad, honestly.
old Sony would probably be still showing like tech demos and shit too. Like that's what Sony used to do during these type of showcases and stuff. They would literally show a bunch, like hundreds of games basically, and then they would also be like, "Yeah, here's a tech demo, by the way," just so we can like remind you guys how impressive the PS like 3 is and stuff.
Yeah, because
Like they
what if they really shown that shows off the PS5, honestly?
nothing. I can't really recall
I don't
anything
really
that's like
remember
a
them
tech
having it.
demo.
I don't really remember them having a game that's like this shows how good the PS5 is. I don't really remember either.
Yeah,
So
because like the Spider-Man one was literally just to show how fast the game runs, and that was it. Literally just the
man,
original Spider-Man PS4 game.
yeah. But whatever, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see if Sony picks up the pace. But I don't know. I guess at least there's some good games coming, so that's always something to look
Yeah,
forward to. See if I'll finally get a PS5 though. Once again, I'm waiting because there's rumors of a PS5 Pro, so you know.
yeah.
Alrighty, moving on to the second news story. This one is another one that I've been excited for because I've been wondering when the next game is going to come out. So it's kind of cool that it's already like, wow, it's already like has a release date and everything. So I'm of course talking about, as the title of the article says, Mortal Kombat 1 release date set for September, set in Reborn universe. So for anyone who played Mortal Kombat 11, basically, I don't know why. It's a very weird decision, but I get it. Maybe they dug themselves into a hole for some reason. But after Mortal Kombat 9 was a reboot, and then 10, was like a time jump, and then 11 was like a further time jump. At the end of 11, they did another universe reset, but at least this
Yeah.
time it's a little bit different. This time, Liu Kang, he is now basically the new Raiden. He's the one who has, he's Fire God Liu Kang. And so he's the one who shaped the universe. And so basically what Mortal Kombat 1, aka Mortal Kombat 12, is going to be is that it's going to be like in a new universe where it looks like people are going to have like different roles and stuff. Like for instance, once again, Liu Kang, he is the protector of Earthrealm now. He is the one who has, the godlike powers. And as they
Yeah.
showed off characters in this new world, for instance, it looks like Raiden, he's a human now. And then they showed that Kitana and Melina, they're hanging out together. And it might be implied that maybe Melina is like the queen this time because the little caravan they're sitting in, people did notice that it was like pinkish purple. So like, maybe it's her color. Maybe Melina is like the queen now, and Kitana's her bodyguard this time around or something. Um,
Yeah.
and Scorpion and Sub-Zero, it looks like they're actually not enemies. It looks like they were hanging out together. So it'll be interesting where it looks like, yeah, it definitely is following where the last game, left off. And it looks like it is going to be in a new universe where, due to Liu Kang being in charge of things, it looks like things have been shaken up, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because I like that they did the time jump and everything. I wish that stuck with that. It kind of sucks that they decided to do like a reboot again. But if they're going to do a reboot again, then it's like, okay, at least take advantage of it and yeah, use it to like shake things up, or like, maybe Sub-Zero and Scorpion aren't enemies this time. Like people have implied, maybe Melina is the queen of what do you call it? I forget what their realm is called. Whatever, maybe she's like the queen this time, and like Katana is the bodyguard, or she's like the second sister or whatever. I don't know. Obviously, they're still gonna have to fight because it does show that at the end, Shang Tsung shows up, who's the he's the evil wizard, and maybe it's implied that maybe he some sort of time shenanigans, he's here to mess everything up. But
Yeah.
regardless, the fact that they're shaking things up is really cool. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, the game, as always, looks really, really gory. Like, holy crap. So, damn, it looks like they're always trying to outdo themselves with the goriness.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I always think the stories are pretty cool in their own way. Like, are they like the best? Nah, like, there's plot holes and there's like dumb stuff to it. But at the same time, I feel like if you really want like a good fighting game story, I feel like Mortal Kombat does a really good job of trying to like really mix story with like,
Killing
gameplay and
people.
stuff. And I think they
Yeah,
do. I think they really try to push forward with having like really cool story modes and stuff. So I'm excited.
yeah.
I'm pretty excited. So, oh, and then like I said, yeah, supposedly there, it says that the game should come out. Did it say September what? Or was it just September? Hold on, I'm trying to look. September 19th. So it's coming out this year, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Oh, and even cooler is that it's already been announced. I don't know if it was like a leak or something. They talked about some of the DLC, and it's crazy that supposedly Peacemaker and
Homeland.
Homelander are going to be DLC characters.
Damn.
So that'll be interesting, and I think especially will be interesting Peacemaker because, like, John Cena plays Peacemaker. Will he voice the character?
Most likely.
That'd be interesting, right? So that's pretty
Especially
interesting.
because wasn't the Terminator and Rambo, weren't they both voiced by their respective actors and the face?
No, no,
What?
no. Terminator was a Terminator. I remember that he picked his own person that sounded like him.
Mm. But I know Rambo definitely was Sylvester Stallone though, huh?
But I don't think it was new lines though. I think it was all archive stuff too.
Okay.
I'm not too sure. We could look that up for like a different podcast. Obviously, we could like look into it. But
Yeah.
I remember like no, I think Terminator he picked his own like person to do his voice, even though it
Yeah.
was based on him. And I think Rambo I read it was archive stuff, but we could look into it for later.
Uh
But still pretty cool. Yeah, then so it's interesting that's Peacemaker and Homelander who are both kind of like anti-heroes. So yeah,
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what other people make it in as DLC characters because like okay, that's two like guest characters. I wonder what other characters will make it in, you know?
Yeah.
Alrighty, and finally, the last news story ties into something that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. If you guys remember, we had mentioned about how Dolphin was set to release, I think it was the second quarter of this year. So that was like really, really soon on
Mm-hmm.
Steam. Unfortunately, as the title of this article says, Nintendo sends Valve DMCA notice to block Steam release of Wii emulator Dolphin. Yeah, so that sucks.
Especially because I mentioned Dolphin earlier, actually, with the whole Pokemon Rumble thing.
Oh, you did, you're right.
Mm-hmm. So
So
that's pretty.
this is still ongoing. We're gonna have to see what's gonna happen. But yeah, basically, Steam they put out a message that said that the release is indefinitely postponed because they're trying to work something out because of how Nintendo sent them a DMCA. Nintendo, they're trying to argue their usual stuff about how it hurts their business and it uses their code and blah 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 blah. The same old usual bullshit they try to pull. What I am
It,
hoping though is I really hope Microsoft fights this because if you notice, and like other YouTubers were talking about this, Nintendo has not ever gone after the actual Dolphin website where the emulator is hosted, nor have they gone after other projects
emulator
that
stuff.
they're similar. And it's really stupid because like okay, if they're really like do want to, why haven't they done it? And it's because they can't because there have been court cases such as like there was one where like Sony versus I don't remember who where it was established that emulators aren't against the law because as long as they use like different like code, as long as it's true that they're not like using like Nintendo's official code or whatever, like as long as it's like built on like their own open source stuff or whatever, it's fine. And so that's what I'm hoping that Microsoft fights it because as long as this is a thing that they're making for themselves that isn't based on anything by Nintendo and they're not distributing ROMs or anything, then it should be perfectly legal. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just Nintendo throwing a hissy fit the way they do because we don't want our games to like make it to a different system. But I don't know. I think if Microsoft is smart, I hope they fight it and I hope it does release because As much as I love Nintendo, at the same time, it's like screw Nintendo. They're stupid. Like they're so
Yeah, like I like their games, but I don't like them, like the company itself. I don't like the people who run the company. Like
yeah,
that's
because they
not
they throw their stupid hissy fits like, oh no, emulate. First of all, emulation's not even illegal.
that's one, yeah.
Like piracy is illegal, sure, but like the emulation isn't. Like I've said it myself, like freaking like games I've talked about for my channel, which oh man, I need to get back to those. For instance, when I've talked about like The Last Story, or I've talked about, Mad World, or I've talked about Pandora's Tower, stuff like that that really interests me for like the Wii because they're like kind of like rare games, you know what I mean? When I talk about games like that, guess what? Actually, I do own the copies of those games. Like I went out of my way to like buy The Last Story. It's a Japanese version because that's what I was able to get my hands on, but I own it and I was able to dump it so I could play it on my Wii U or I could play it on my computer. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and that way I can, never lose the game. You know what I mean? Same thing with like Mad World because and No More Heroes and stuff like that. Like a lot of these games, I own them, but it's because I would like to dump them so I can have them on my Wii U, which is hacked. That way I can play whatever I want. You know what I mean? So and that
Hmm.
that shouldn't be illegal. Like it's my system, it's my game. I should be able to do whatever I want with it. Like screw you. You know what I mean? If I want to
Yeah.
dump it, that way I can play it, like better resolution on my computer. That's up to me. Like you shouldn't stand in the way of me
Yeah.
doing that. So anyway, so yeah, the fact that Nintendo like tries to be all hissy fitty over emulators is stupid. And yeah, especially like it's so dumb. Like you like they know, they like what a coincidence they don't go after these other emulators because they know they have like no say in it. But like I said, they're just trying to throw a hissy fit here, try to like intimidate, Steam probably. I just noticed I said
Hmm.
Microsoft. I didn't say Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't own
Because I think
Steam.
it's because of the fact that they have like the PC, but yeah, no, they don't own it.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Microsoft. I just noticed that. But the point is, I hope Steam doesn't back down. And I hope that they go for it and that it does get released because I'm pretty sure if this goes to court, they'd win because there is precedent already that like as long as they're
It's
not
an
distributing,
emulator.
yeah, as long as it's not distributing ROMs and stuff, they should be fine. You know.
Yeah, because I saw a thing where like Nintendo was like, oh, it's because like they're helping like distribute like illegal ROMs. I'm like, no, they don't. They're basically just replicating hardware, which again, emulators aren't illegal because it's like a way of testing like hardware through software, basically. That's what it's called.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's preservation too, which I hate. All these stupid companies trying to be against preservation
But
because,
preservation isn't. Oh
and
my
it's
God,
so
yeah.
and it's so stupid because then like think about like I said, games that just would be lost to time or we would never get to play because these stupid companies like want them lost.
Hmm.
Like that's what I was getting at earlier too. That yeah, like you said, I like Nintendo, but I don't like the way they act because it's like, okay, fine, I won't emulate the games, but release them. No, we don't want to. Okay, I'll give you money though. Here, I have $100 right here. If you add, let's say GameCube games, right, or like Wii games,
Hmm.
right? If you guys add, let's say, Mario Galaxy 2 and Thousand Year Door, that's a GameCube game, and a couple games like that. If you add these games, I have money right here. Add them to like the eShop, and I'll buy them right now. I'll pay like $10 for each of them, $20, whatever. No, we don't want to. Then what the hell? I'm trying to give you money. I'm trying to like, follow your rules and you don't want to, then what do you want? Like that's so stupid.
Yeah, like it makes no sense. I'm telling you, I could literally do this even go more exaggerated. And I could be like, guys, I'm about to sell my whole entire house to you guys just so I can have the whole entire GameCube library or some dumb shit. And yeah, they wouldn't be satisfied somehow. Even
Yeah.
though literally they
Like,
can get a bunch of money out of that
yeah, like
somehow.
like like, like the whole thing with the Mario 35th anniversary collection or whatever, where it's like, oh yeah,
The All Stars, yeah.
yeah, where it's like here's three of like the best Mario games. Oh, but it's only limited time. Why?
Like, why would you do that?
Why is
Yeah.
it limited time? That is stupid. Like that, oh man, it's so ridiculous. Like I still am kind of hoping that's because they finally released Game Boy Advance games. I'm still hoping that before the Switch dies, it will reach GameCube, hopefully. But they're so slow to do it, dude. It's like so
Hmm.
ridiculous. So like I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even want to get into it. But the point is, this is an ongoing story. I hope Steam doesn't back down. I hope they don't let Nintendo intimidate them. And I hope that this does get released, because yes, the emulator is already out there. You can already like use it, whatever. But just the more accessible it is, I think the better. And just the fact that it would be on Steam with the cloud save and stuff, that'd be pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
Alrighty, that's it for the news stories for this week. Interesting stuff. A lot of them are still kind of, in the process. So we'll have to see how it goes. Like, we'll have to see what happens with the games the PlayStation announced. We'll have to see what other games they announced. Like, I know Kingdom Hearts 4 is still missing. I hope that pops up at some point. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I've heard about like rumors of other games that supposedly might make a comeback. We'll have to see. Then for Mortal Kombat 1, that's September. I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to see how that goes. And finally, the whole DMCA thing, blocking Dolphin emulator. We'll have to see what happens with that, So
Yeah.
they're all kind of, one of those in process things. So, maybe we'll report on these things in the future and see how that goes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Jumping over to the topic of the week. It's funny because it ties two things together. It ties into your Pokemon binge, and it ties into the thing about Nintendo really sucking at re-releasing their games. So it actually ties into two of them. That is because the topic of the week, the one that I want to talk about, that I recommend that a lot of people check out if they haven't checked it out. Oh man, it's a favorite of mine. Even though I haven't played in a while, I do want to go back and play it sometime soon. I am, of course, talking about Pokemon Colosseum.
Yeah. That game's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, Pokemon Colosseum is a game for the GameCube that was part of the third gen of Pokemon games. And it is unique because, it was a console game. We didn't have a console, Pokemon until freaking Sword and Shield. So that was kind of cool that, before Sword and Shield, this is like the first console Pokemon game. And what makes it really cool is that it is a location that they have like never revisited. And it is like a style of game that it sucks they have never revisited either.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what I mean is that it is I'll even like read the gameplay thing right here. So it says Pokemon Colosseum is a 3D role-playing game viewed from a third-person perspective. The player, controlling a Pokemon trainer named Wes, moves through various towns and other locations, battling enemy trainers and completing quests. So it's pretty cool because, yes, even before they jumped to 3D in the, what was it, like the fifth gen? The sixth gen, right? With X and Y?
Mm-hmm.
So even before X and Y, that's why this game was so ahead of its time. This game was a 3D adventure where you're running around as a trainer going to different towns and stuff. So that's really cool. And what's also really cool is that compared to other games, how in every game you can throw a Pokeball at a trainer's Pokemon, but it doesn't do anything because they say, like, oh, don't steal Pokemon. This game, it actually encourages that you steal Pokemon. Because for anyone who doesn't know, I'm going to go down real quick. It says, unlike most Pokemon games, Colosseum does not feature random encounters. The player begins the game with two Pokemon. So it's a Umbreon and Embryon. And it says more are obtained throughout the game by snagging them from other trainers using Pokeballs of various strengths. Only specifically designated Shadow Pokemon whose hearts have been artificially closed can be snagged. So the whole gimmick of this game, like I said, so cool. And I hate that they did revisit it for one sequel, but I don't think it was as good, blah, blah, blah. And even then, they still haven't like returned to it after that sequel either. So that's what I'm saying, they haven't really returned to it. So unlike other Pokemon games, this game is a much more mature, where instead of being a Pokemon trainer on a journey to, collect the badges and all that stuff, this game takes place in a desert region called Ore, which is actually based on
Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, Phoenix, Arizona. So that's like a really interesting location. So it's set in the desert region of Ore, where you control a player named Wes, as I said earlier, that he is actually the former member of a organization called Team Snag'em. So you actually start as a trainer that he is an ex-member of an evil organization. So how cool is that? That would be like if you got to play as like someone who left Team Rocket. Like that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, when the game starts, Wes, there's this thing called what the heck's the machine called? Let me go back down real quick. It is called the what is the stupid thing called? It's the snag Pokemon, and it's like a weird like arm basically. I don't remember what it's called. I'm trying to look for the name. It's like the snag machine or something like that. I don't remember what it's called. I can't really find it right now. But the point is, there's like this glove that he basically steals from the Team Snag'em compound. Like the game literally starts with him stealing it and like escaping.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And basically it's like this cool glove that he wears. So it looks like he has like this gauntlet. And basically when he puts like a Pokeball, when he like, summons like a Pokeball, it turns into a Snag'em ball. And whenever you see a dark Pokemon, it's a shadow Pokemon who has been experimented on and their heart has been closed to like darkness, and they have like these like really like they have like this like aura around them, and they have like these moves that are like really like more aggressive. Whenever you see one of these Pokemon, it's your job to weaken them as usual, and then you use the Pokeball to become a Snag'em ball, and then you use it to steal the other trainer's Pokemon. And then your job from there is that once you steal the Pokemon, it's your job to purify the Pokemon. That way they open up their hearts back to like, normal or whatever. And so it's like a really, really interesting game where, yeah, like it says, it takes place in this desert region. Instead of random encounters with Pokemon, it's more about you fighting all these other organizations, all these like desert people. Along the way, you meet this girl named Rui, or like Ru. I don't know how you say her name. It's Rui. And she becomes like a sidekick, and she's the one that can see their aura. She has like this magical power. And so basically Wes and Rui, they team up and they're going all around, and they're using the Snag'em machine to not just, catch all these shadow Pokemon and like free their hearts, but they're also taking down the evil team that's called Team Cypher. And it's pretty cool. And it's like very different because it's like a whole like desert region. Everything is really like run down everywhere you go. Basically everybody you fight, they're all like vagabonds and wanderers and stuff. Instead of actual like Pokemon gyms, you have like these like Colosseums. They're like really makeshift and stuff. And like it's just really weird to explain, but trust me, it's like a really cool game. The gameplay is very different from anything you've ever played before. And I don't know, just like I said, Wes is super badass. He rides like this crazy motorcycle. And I don't know, it's just really cool, right? Like you've played the game before, you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I played it.
Yeah, it's like really cool. And like the way they tie in all the shadow Pokemon stuff is really cool too, where it's like, yeah, you have to free all these Pokemon by stealing them and like purifying them. And they do have the three legendary I think you call them dogs, right? Entei, Suicune, and Raikou.
Those are the legendary dogs, yeah.
Yeah, they have the three legendary dogs plus Groudon and Kyogre. And Ho-Oh too, I think. I think you can actually catch Ho-Oh too. And Celebi too. So there's like all sorts of like legendary Pokemon, all sorts of other Pokemon that you're trying to like, free. And I don't know, it's just like such a unique game. And like I said, it sucks that they never came back to this region. I mean, they came back to it once. Like I said, I don't think the sequel's fine, but I hate that you don't play as Wes. You play as like this little kid named Michael on a little scooter. He's like a total downgrade. But yeah, it kind of sucks that they never really returned to this region. It was such an interesting region, and it was so cool, like the style and the battles and stealing Pokemon, and Wes was like a badass, and having Ryui as like your sidekick is really cool, and all sorts of like puzzles and stuff, and like it's such a cool game. And like I said, it sucks that it's still just stuck on the GameCube. They've never like re-released it anywhere, and I don't know if they'll ever they'll probably never even return to this style of game, which really sucks. So it's just like so disappointing, man. I would kill for either re-release on Switch, which would be awesome, or which would be even better, make another game in this style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now that they are making games on the console and they're all 3D, I guess they have even less of a reason to like return to it. But I really like the mechanic of like stealing the Pokemon and purifying them and stuff. I thought it was really cool. So
Yeah. I think it's kind of dumb though that they like you have to consider that this is also kind of like if you think about it, like maybe like the first technically like US like region, I guess you can say, before like Unova, then Alola.
oh,
So it's
you're right,
kind of
yeah.
dumb. It's kind of dumb that you would have thought that maybe they would have revisited this region canonically, supposedly, and be like, you know what, like, remember that time we like made one based off of a city in Arizona? How about we make one that's like based off Arizona itself, or we make it like we just reuse the region, but add like exclusive Pokemon or something. Or we
I
just
know, man.
yeah, or we just revisit the same Pokemon and just kind of add maybe a few new ones because you know how some regions they just add a few new ones and they just kind of call it a day and that's kind of it. They could have just done something like that. Like I don't know, it's kind of weird.
I know. It's one of those things where the more I think about it, man, it's just one of those things that like if Nintendo was only a little bit different, if only they really listened to fans and like what they want, maybe
Yeah,
we could get some sort of sequel or something, but I don't think we ever will. I think it's just one of those things where like, man, there's like some games like for the GameCube were just so special, you know?
yeah.
Like every system has had its special, like you know, I've said it before. There's a lot of games for the Wii that were also really special, right? But it's just
Hmm.
one of those things where it's like, man, that's just like it was such a special game for this that one system, and it sucks that we might never see anything like it again.
Yeah.
But that's why I recommend it. If you guys could get a hold of it, I would say play it, or if you can at least watch some gameplay of it. Like, trust me, like the story is really cool, the gameplay is really cool. Wes is like a really cool looking protagonist, and he's so unique. The fact that he's like an ex-member of like an actual evil organization and stuff is so cool. And then it's just so cool. Like just like the way like the shadow Pokemon, like the mechanic of slinging them and stuff. It's just like really fun. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that's my recommendation. That's the topic of the week. And man, I need to replay it. It's been a while since I played it. I really do want to replay it too. Especially if I could play like on PC, you know, with like graphics and save states and all sorts of stuff. I'm interested in revisiting it because it's just like such a fun game, you know.
Yeah.
But alrighty, guys, there you go. That is it for this week. Pretty good stuff. Hopefully, we mentioned some stuff that you guys will check out. Yeah, Pokemon binge. So it just felt like it was like a Pokemon centered episode. Really, there was so much Pokemon stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, we apologize for not being here last week. You know, it is what it is. But we were back this week. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this episode. We will try our hardest to be back next week, see what kind of news stories we have, what kind of stuff we have that to report, you know. And yeah, that's going to be it for this week. Hopefully, you guys had a good time. We'll try our hardest to be back next week, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.